Battlestar Galactica wasn't just riding the Star Wars wave, it was drowning in lawsuits, Soviet fury, and accidental tragedy before a single season ended. This wasn't a show trying to copy success, it was a cultural earthquake that unalived a child, angered a superpower, and hid Mormon theology inside every battle. A chimpanzee played a robot dog, a legend danced one last time, and somewhere, a 4-foot spaceship model sits stolen in someone's basement. These are 20 hidden details in Battlestar Galactica that you completely missed. Number 20. That adorable Daggett Muffet wasn't a small actor crammed into a costume. It was a chimpanzee named Evie, short for evolution, trained by Ralph Helfer's exotic animal company. The movement always seemed slightly wrong, too fluid in the joints, too expressive in the eyes. Now the reason becomes clear. Primate instincts couldn't be fully hidden beneath fur and mechanics. The Daggett's odd gestures, the way it tilted its head or reached for objects, all chimp behavior bleeding through the disguise. Helfer's team did their best to mask the simian mannerisms working alongside costume designer Jean-Pierre Dorlac, but careful observers noticed something uncanny. Director Richard Kalla acknowledged the challenge during production interviews. The robot dog moved like something alive because it was. Number 19. Soviet journalist Milor Sturua watched Battlestar Galactica and saw propaganda. He publicly accused the show of mocking the SALT nuclear treaty negotiations happening between Leonid Brezhnev's administration and President Carter, claiming the peace talks between humans and Cylons were thinly veiled anti-Soviet messaging. The Soviets saw themselves as the Cylons, metallic antagonists offering false peace while preparing annihilation. The accusation wasn't subtle. Sturua's criticism appeared in Pravda and other Soviet media outlets, framing the show as American warmongering disguised as science fiction. Universal's executive Frank Price never responded directly, but the controversy added geopolitical weight to what was marketed as space adventure. A television show about survival and betrayal became entangled in Cold War tensions, proof that even fictional wars reflected real ones. Number 18. The 3-hour premiere cost $9 million, a staggering sum for 1978 television. Universal sold it to ABC president Fred Silverman for only $1.8 million, absorbing a catastrophic loss before the show even aired. Director Richard Kalla later revealed the budget blowout in interviews with Starlog magazine, explaining that production costs spiraled beyond anyone's projections. For context, most television pilots at the time cost a few $100,000. Battlestar Galactica's premiere budget rivaled feature films being produced by 20th Century Fox. The scale was unprecedented, the financial risk enormous. Producer John Dykstra's visual effects work alone consumed millions, and the deficit nearly bankrupted the show before it started. Universal bet everything on spectacle, hoping audiences would justify the expense. Number 17. The legendary Fred Astaire guest starred as Chameleon, a con man who might be Starbuck's father. At nearly 80 years old, Astaire hadn't danced on screen since Finian's Rainbow a decade earlier, but he made a rare exception for Battlestar Galactica, performing a brief dance sequence choreographed by his longtime collaborator Hermes Pan in the episode. It would be the last time he ever danced on camera. Years later, when asked by Gene Kelly about his favorite role, Astaire said it was Battlestar Galactica because his grandson was so impressed. The comment wasn't nostalgic sentimentality. Astaire genuinely valued the role for what it meant to his family, a career spanning decades at RKO and MGM, and he chose a single-season science fiction show as his personal favorite. Number 16. The set decorators needed futuristic computer equipment for the Galactica Bridge under production designer John Chilberg's direction. They contacted Tektronix Inc., a technology company based in Beaverton, Oregon, specializing in advanced electronics and monitors. Tektronix agreed to donate $3 million worth of hardware and $35,000 in monitors in exchange for a single screen credit. Product placement before product placement became standard practice. The equipment wasn't props, it was real, functioning technology repurposed as set dressing by property master George Wilbur. The bridge looked authentically futuristic because the technology was genuinely advanced. Tektronix CEO Earl Wantland understood the promotional value of associating their brand with science fiction innovation, and the production received millions in equipment they couldn't have afforded otherwise. Number 15. When Battlestar Galactica suddenly shifted from television movies to a weekly series format under ABC executive Michael Eisner's orders, the writers were caught completely unprepared. Scripts were being finished minutes before cameras rolled. Actors couldn't memorize lines in time and resorted to reading off cue cards positioned just off screen. Even Fred Astaire, a consummate professional with decades of experience, was caught on camera with script supervisor Marshall Schlamm holding his lines visible in the frame. The rush rushed production schedule created chaos on set. Scenes were blocked without final dialogue. Dirk Benedict later recalled improvising around incomplete scripts in multiple interviews. Directors had to shoot without knowing how episodes would end. The frantic pace showed in continuity errors, awkward line deliveries, and visible production shortcuts. Number 14. Explosion shots and ship passes appeared multiple times across episodes, and this wasn't just budget cutting under executive producer Leslie Stevens. It was stylistic. Editor John Dykstra deliberately reused footage to make space feel like an endless loop of war, where every battle blurred into the last. The Cylons don't retreat, they recycle destruction. Cinematographer Ben Coleman and his team at Universal understood the narrative value of repetition, creating a sense of futility and exhaustion that matched the fleet's journey. Visual effects coordinator David Jones later confirmed this approach in interviews with American Cinematographer magazine. The reused footage wasn't a flaw, it was environmental storytelling, using repetition to convey the monotony and trauma of perpetual survival across the galaxy. Number 13. The iconic Cylon Centurion helmets designed by Andrew Probert looked intimidating, but performers were nearly blind inside. Actors could barely see straight ahead, relying on floor markings taped down by assistant director Frank Lasasso and crew assistants positioned between takes to guide them through scenes. That stiff mechanical movement wasn't acting coached by director Christian Nyby, it was survival. The limited visibility forced performers to move cautiously, creating the unintentionally perfect robotic gait that became synonymous with Cylon warriors across the series. Stunt coordinator Glenn Randall recalled numerous injuries during filming at Universal Studios when performers walked into walls or missed their marks entirely, causing production delays. The helmets created authentic alien menace precisely because they dehumanized the people inside them. Number 12. 20th Century Fox sued Universal in 1978, claiming Battlestar Galactica stole 34 distinct ideas from Star Wars. Fox attorney Thomas Pollock filed the complaint in Los Angeles Superior Court. Universal countersued, pointing out that George Lucas borrowed heavily from their 1972 film Silent Running, directed by Douglas Trumbull, and the 1930s Buck Rogers serials. Fox's case was dismissed in 1980 by Judge Irving Hill, revived in 1983, then quietly settled out of court. Neither side really won. The lawyers profited. Both films borrowed from older science fiction traditions, pulp serials, and shared cultural mythology. Proving theft was impossible because the influences were universal. The lawsuit became a cautionary tale about overreaching intellectual property claims that legal scholar Lawrence Lessig later referenced in copyright reform debates. Number 11. The original Battlestar Galactica shooting model built by effects supervisor John Dykstra was restored and displayed at Universal Studios Hollywood after the show ended. Then it mysteriously vanished when the display was removed during park renovations overseen by operations director Jay Stein. Universal still considers it stolen property. To this day, the iconic 4-foot miniature has never been recovered despite investigations. No arrests were made, no suspects identified. Somewhere, a piece of television history sits hidden in someone's basement or storage unit. The model wasn't just a prop, it was the physical embodiment of the show, used in nearly every space battle sequence filmed at Van Nuys Airport. Its disappearance left a hole in the production archive maintained by Universal's preservation department. Number 10. Those imposing Cylon Centurions needed to be tall, genuinely intimidating in frame under costume designer Jean-Pierre Dorlich's specifications. Glenn Larson's solution was practical. Hire out-of-work basketball players from local Los Angeles teams. Their height made the Chrome Warriors tower over Lorne Greene and the human cast, creating the threatening silhouette that became iconic. But visibility inside those helmets designed by Andrew Probert was nearly impossible. The performers navigated sets blind, relying on crew guidance and muscle memory. Stunt coordinator Glenn Randall recalled many scenes requiring multiple takes because Cylons walked into walls, missed marks, or collided with each other. The imposing presence on screen came at the cost of mobility and awareness. The players weren't trained stunt performers or actors. Number 9. That menacing Cylon scanning eye sound created by composer Stu Phillips became the signature audio of Kit's scanner on Knight Rider, another Glenn Larson production. Same creator, same sound design. The Viper launch noise, engineered by sound designer Frank Serafine, is identical to Kit's turbo boost. Larson wasn't recycling out of laziness. He was building a shared universe of sonic branding, creating consistency across his productions for NBC. Audiences who watched both shows subconsciously recognized the connection. The sounds carried meaning beyond their immediate context, linking two science fiction worlds through audio design. Larson understood that sound creates identity as much as visuals. Audio engineer Sam Shaw worked on both projects, ensuring the sonic continuity remained consistent throughout both series runs. Number 8. Jane Seymour, fresh from playing Solitaire opposite Roger Moore in Live and Let Die negotiated a specific contract stipulation through her William Morris agent. Her character Serina had to die by the end of her episode arc. She didn't want to be locked into a television series commitment. Seymour's career was focused on feature films, and long-term television felt like career stagnation, so Apollo's wife was killed by Cylons in a script written by Glenn Larson, leaving young Boxy motherless and audiences devastated. Seymour went on to star in Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, ironically committing to the exact long-term television role she initially avoided, and Noah Hathaway, who played Boxy, went on to play Atreyu in The Never-Ending Story, directed by Wolfgang Peterson. Number 7. Patrick Macnee voiced the Imperious leader, the opening narrator, and the mysterious Count Iblis. Same voice, 3 separate characters across multiple episodes. The show actually referenced this meta casting in a script by Donald Bellisario. Balter becomes seriously creeped out when he realizes Iblis speaks with the Imperious leader's voice, implying the character is over 1,000 years old. The vocal similarity wasn't accidental, it was deliberate storytelling, using casting to suggest deeper connections between characters. Macnee's voice became synonymous with ancient evil, threading through the show's mythology. Sound editor Robert Cornett worked to maintain vocal consistency across all 3 roles, and the production saved money by hiring one actor for multiple roles, while creating narrative coherence through audio continuity that impressed director Rod Holcomb. Number 6. Ralph McQuarrie, the legendary concept artist who designed Darth Vader and Stormtroopers for George Lucas, also created the initial Cylon designs for Battlestar Galactica. His original artwork featured blue-eyed Cylons. The final design with the iconic red scanning eye came from Andrew Probert, whom McQuarrie recommended when he returned to Elstree Studios to work on The Empire Strikes Back for Irvin Kershner. The connection between Star Wars and Galactica extended beyond superficial similarities. They shared actual creative personnel, visual language, and design philosophy developed at Industrial Light and Magic. McQuarrie's involvement gave Galactica artistic legitimacy, linking it directly to the cultural phenomenon it was accused of copying, and Probert's red eye became the show's most recognizable visual element, surpassing McQuarrie's original blue concept entirely. Number 5. The creepy Imperious leader puppet was designed by Carlo Rambaldi, the same Italian artist who later created E.T. the Extraterrestrial for Steven Spielberg. Rick Baker, who became Hollywood's greatest makeup effects artist after working on Star Wars, designed the insect-like Ovians. Battlestar Galactica served as a proving ground for effects legends working under producer John Dykstra. The show gave these artists opportunities to experiment with creature design, puppetry, and practical effects before they became industry standards. Rambaldi's work on the Imperious leader directly informed his approach to E.T., refining techniques for creating believable alien life. Baker's Ovians showcased his emerging mastery of prosthetics and animatronics that would later win him Academy Awards. The show didn't just launch a franchise, it launched careers that shaped Hollywood for decades. Number 4. When the pilot was released theatrically in 1979 through Universal Pictures, they used Sensoround, the rumbling bass technology originally developed by engineer John Allen for Earthquake. Your seat literally shook during space battles. Critics including Roger Ebert called it perhaps the only film to ever use Sensoround properly, integrating the technology into storytelling rather than treating it as gimmick. The vibrations enhanced immersion, making explosions feel physical in ways television couldn't replicate. It was also one of the last 4 films ever released with Sensoround before the technology was abandoned due to installation costs. The format never achieved mainstream success, too expensive for most theater chains to install and maintain. Sound designer Frank Warner oversaw the Sensoround mix, but for one brief moment, Battlestar Galactica offered audiences a visceral experience impossible to replicate at home. Number 3. In 1979, Universal Studios Hollywood opened Battle of Galactica, a studio tour experience designed by attraction producer Bob Ward, combining live actors, animatronics, and Sensoround explosions. Cylon Centurions and Colonial Warriors roamed the park starting in 1978 under choreographer Kenny Ortega's direction. It was the first non-Disney theme park attraction to merge live actors with animatronic technology developed by effects artists at Universal. The attraction ran until 1992, replaced by Back to the Future, which itself is now gone. Battle of Galactica became a template for immersive theme park experiences, pioneering techniques later adopted industry-wide at parks like Six Flags. The show's legacy extended beyond television into physical space, creating memories for visitors who never watched a single episode broadcast on ABC. Number 2. Creator Glenn Larson publicly accused ABC president Fred Silverman of sabotaging Battlestar Galactica in interviews with Starlog magazine. Despite solid ratings, ranking 34th out of 114 shows that season according to Nielsen, the network allegedly preempted episodes constantly for specials, driving ratings down artificially. The show was too expensive, and ABC wanted the time slot for Mork and Mindy starring Robin Williams. Larson Larson's accusation was never proven but never refuted by network executives. The pattern of preemptions was suspicious, disrupting narrative momentum and confusing audiences. When fans demanded a revival, they received Galactica 1980 instead, a compromised sequel produced by David O'Connell that lasted 10 episodes. The original show's cancellation felt less like natural conclusion and more like calculated execution orchestrated at the network level. Number 1. According to production insiders, including story editor Don Belisario, Commander Kane, played by Lloyd Bridges, and the Battlestar Pegasus were meant to survive the Living Legend two-parter. The plan involved the Galactica eventually finding the Pegasus orbiting a remote planet, manufacturing new Vipers, and building additional Battlestars. The fleet would face an impossible choice: continue searching for Earth with Commander Adama, or stay and fight the Cylons with Kane. Budget cuts imposed by Universal executive Sid Sheinberg killed the storyline entirely. The greatest what-if in the show's history, a narrative fork that could have redefined the series according to writer Michael Sloan. Instead, the Pegasus vanished. Kane's fate left ambiguous, and the show continued its endless flight across the galaxy without resolution. Nearly 5 decades later, Battlestar Galactica remains one of television's most ambitious failures. A single-season wonder that spawned lawsuits, tragedy, theme park rides, and a reboot that conquered the 2000s. From chimpanzees to stolen models, from Mormon theology to Cold War accusations, the show hid more secrets than most franchises manage in a decade. The legacy lives on in every space opera that followed. Proof that even doomed shows can change television forever, so say we all.